In all the epic tales of the Ramayana, there exists a figure shrouded in power and tragedy. A warrior so formidable that even Lord Ram and Lakshman fell before him. His story is one of divine strength, fatal weakness, and the cruel hand of destiny. His name was Meghnad, but the cosmos knew him by another name, Indrajit, the conqueror of Indra. Chapter 1. The Prince of Shadows. This was no ordinary warrior in Ravana's vast army. This was the Demon King's own son, the crown prince of Lanka, and perhaps the most dangerous adversary Ram would ever encounter on the battlefield. To understand Meghnad's power, one must first understand how he earned his legendary title. In a time before the Great War, young Meghnad had accomplished what few could even imagine. He had challenged Indra, the king of gods himself, lord of the heavens, and wielder of the divine thunderbolt. And Meghnad had won. Not only did he defeat Indra in combat, but he dragged the humiliated god back to Lanka as a prisoner, parading him through the golden streets of the demon capital. The celestial beings witnessed this spectacle with trembling hearts. From that day forward, Meghnad was crowned with a new name, Indrajit, he who conquered Indra. He had mastered powers that made even the inhabitants of heaven shudder in fear. The day the heroes fell. When the Great War finally erupted between Ram's forces and the armies of Lanka, the battlefield became a canvas of chaos and valor. Ram and Lakshman moved through the Lankan ranks like an unstoppable tempest, their arrows finding targets with divine precision. Warrior after warrior fell before them. It seemed nothing could halt their advance. Then Meghnad stepped onto the field of battle. What happened next would be spoken of in hushed tones for generations to come. Meghnad wielded the Nagapasha, the dreaded serpent weapon, an ancient power that few could command. With supernatural skill, he invoked its binding curse and unleashed it upon the two brothers. The mystical serpents coiled around Ram and Lakshman with crushing force, draining their strength, pulling them down to the blood-soaked earth. Both brothers lay unconscious, defeated, motionless as stone. The entire Vanara army stood paralyzed in horror and disbelief. Their greatest champions, the very incarnations of Dharma and devotion, had fallen. For a terrible moment, suspended in time, it seemed as though the war itself had reached its end, and darkness would prevail. The fatal weakness. But every great warrior, no matter how powerful, carries within them a vulnerability. For Meghnad, it was not a weakness of body or weapon, but something far more specific, far more exploitable. To maintain his invincibility on the battlefield, Meghnad was bound by a sacred requirement. He had to complete a special yajna, a fire ceremony of immense power, performed at the Nikumbhila temple. As long as he successfully completed this ritual, he remained virtually undefeatable in combat, blessed by dark powers beyond mortal comprehension. And there was one person who knew this secret intimately: Vibhishan, Ravana's own brother, who had abandoned Lanka and joined Ram's righteous cause. Vibhishan understood that this ritual was Meghnad's source of power and his Achilles' heel. If someone could interrupt the yajna before its completion, the invincible warrior would become mortal again. It was a narrow window of opportunity, perhaps the only one they would ever have. A plan was formed. Lakshman, guided by Vibhishan's knowledge and armed with his unwavering resolve, would strike at the temple. He would attack Meghnad before the ritual could be completed. The battle at the temple. When Lakshman arrived at the Nikumbhila temple, Meghnad was deep in the sacred ceremony, surrounded by ritual fires and chanting priests. Flames danced in the darkness, and the air thrummed with mystical energy. The rules of Dharma were clear and ancient. One does not attack a person performing sacred worship. To do so was to commit a grave sin, to violate the very foundations of righteousness. But this was war, and Meghnad himself had shattered many rules of honor in his conquests. The moment Meghnad sensed the intrusion, he abandoned his ritual and rose to face his attacker. What followed was a battle of such ferocity that the very earth trembled beneath their feet. Meghnad unleashed every weapon in his formidable arsenal. The sky darkened with volleys of arrows that blotted out the stars. He conjured illusions that twisted reality itself, summoned mystical powers that bent the laws of nature, and fought with the desperate fury of a warrior who sensed his own mortality drawing near. But Lakshmana stood firm, blessed by Ram's grace, and armed with celestial weapons bestowed by the gods themselves. He moved with purpose, with devotion, with the strength of one fighting not for glory, but for Dharma. And then, in a moment that seemed to freeze time itself, Lakshmana drew forth a celestial arrow, a divine weapon given to him by Lord Ram. He focused his entire being into that single shot. The arrow flew true, and the mighty Indrajit, the warrior who had conquered heaven itself, the prince who had made gods kneel before him, fell to the earth. His story, written in blood and fire, had reached its final verse. Chapter 5. The Aftermath. When the news reached Ravana that his son had been slain, the demon king's anguish erupted with such force that all three worlds trembled. He had lost his greatest warrior, his most powerful weapon, and more devastating than all of that, his beloved son. The throne room of Lanka echoed with Ravana's roars of grief and fury. The loss would break something fundamental in the demon king, pushing him toward the final confrontation that destiny had written long ago. But the tragedy of Meghnad's death carried with it a bitter irony. He had not fallen simply because Lakshmana was stronger. He had fallen because his own uncle, his father's brother, had revealed the secret of his power to the enemy. In the end, it was not just a battle of weapons and strength. It was a battle of loyalty, of betrayed secrets, of families torn apart by the weight of Dharma. Epilogue. The legend remains. History remembers Meghnad in different ways. Some name him as a villain, a demon warrior drunk on power and cruelty. Others see him as a devoted son, a prince who fought with every ounce of his being to protect his father and his kingdom. A warrior bound by love and duty, even when that duty led him down a dark path. But on one point, every retelling of the Ramayana agrees without question. Meghnad, known as Indrajit, was the most formidable enemy Ram ever faced on the field of battle. He was the only warrior who defeated both Ram and Lakshmana and walked away to tell the tale. His name still echoes through the ages, a reminder that even in divine epics, even in stories of good conquering evil, the battles are never simple, and the warriors never merely monsters. So when someone asks you who was the strongest warrior in the Ramayana, remember this name: Meghnad Indrajit, the conqueror of Indra, the prince who made even the gods nervous, the warrior whose fall required divine intervention and betrayal combined. His story remains carved into the eternal memory of the epic, a testament to power, tragedy, and the inexorable march of destiny.